If you own or are going to buy the Chevy Cruze, the first generation with the 1.8 non-turbo engine in the USA, you need to know this engine is pretty good. It's quite good. It's good for fuel consumption. It doesn't have a lot of common problems. It doesn't cause a lot of issues and doesn't require a lot of maintenance. The engine is pretty good. I really like it, but it still has some common problems that you should know about. And first of all, it's the timing belt. The manufacturer recommends replacing the timing belt once every 100,000 miles. That's not a very good idea. I would replace this belt once every 60,000 miles, and also every other time I replace the timing belt, I would look at phasers, because phasers tend to fail in these engines. They are worse than in 1.4 turbo, because in those engines usually not phasers fail, but the controlling system of those phasers. But in 1.8 liter engine, phasers will probably last 120,000 miles, and then they will start malfunctioning, and this reduces the lifespan of the belt. So of course, replacing the phasers is not cheap. It's quite expensive, but still you will need to do this to prolong the lifespan of the engine and to prolong the life of the belt. There are common oil leaks from the valve cover and also from the heat exchanger. These are two places very common for oil leaks, and you need to pay attention to the oil level, because if the oil leaks are extensive, the oil level will fall, and you will only see the engine light, the oil light, warning light on the dashboard when the situation is catastrophic and the engine is about to die. So just keep an eye on the oil level and only use the recommended oil. It's 5W30 for warm climates and 0W20 for colder climates. I recommend using General Motors oil. It's tested with this engine. It's really better than any aftermarket thing, or at least look at the specifications that your owner's manual states for this engine. As well as in 1.4 turbo engine, thermostat is a big problem. Thermostat may just fail unexpectedly and the engine will start overheating, and this is the point where the engine may die, because you will also see the warning lights and the messages, and the limp modes will turn on when it's too late, and the engine may already be affected. So it's a good idea to keep an eye on the temperature gauge here, and if it goes higher than the half of this gauge, that's the bad sign. You should stop the engine, let it cool down, and then understand what's happening with the engine, why it overheats. Also, both engines, 1.4 and 1.8 liter, they have the same type of ignition, and this is the connector for the ignition coils, and you may have heard that they are problematic. If you have crank no start issue with your car, just check this connector, check the wiring here, because it's a very common problem, and this ignition is not very reliable, but fortunately fixing it's not extremely expensive. Also, these engines, they don't have hydraulic lifters. This means once every 100,000 miles, 120,000 miles, you will need to have the valves adjusted. And it's not very cheap in the majority of repair shops, because the job is very labor intensive. But fortunately, you will only need valve adjustment if your car loses power, if you see that the engine vibrates, there are issues with knocking. In this case, have the valves adjusted, because it's not very efficient to drive with badly adjusted valves with the 1.8 liter engines. With the 1.4 turbo, it's not a problem because they have hydraulic lifters and you don't need to adjust the valves in those engines. Overall, the 1.8 liter engine will survive about 250,000 miles, but after it hits 200,000 miles, I think you will start getting more and more problems. So after it reaches 250,000 miles, it's almost always not financially wise to maintain this engine, to keep repairing it, because it will take more money out of your pocket and it will become too expensive to own. But if you maintain it badly, if you let it overheat, if you don't use proper oil, proper coolant, and if you abuse this engine, it will die much earlier than that.